Chapter 33 The Afterparty. When last met, Cowan's celebration was winding down as the fireworks ended, and Leste was patiently waiting for the Circle's headmaster of illusion and enchantment to finish her story. Once complete, her young audience scampered off to find other entertainment, and Leste approached the half-elven woman, who introduced herself as Avessa Solus. Leste reciprocated the introduction and turned the conversation to the divine, explaining Cowan's sight and how he saw divinity wreathing around her illusions. Avessa was not surprised about this. She was already told by Headmaster Isk she had a blessing from Ludia, but she had little clue as to why she was chosen. Even if she did not know, to Leste it made sense. Illusions and entertainment were well known to be Ludia's calling card, and Avessa was channeling both in droves. Leste then jested with Avessa about her initial concerns of Cowan seeing an aura around her. The only time Cowan saw a person with a similar aura was one of the marked heiresses, so for a second she thought Avessa could be marked. This got a laugh out of the headmaster as she admitted she was not marked, but this also gave her the impression that Leste and Cowan did not know much of his sight. To learn more about it, she recommended the two reach out to Headmasters Aurelia and Isk on the topic. Leste promised to keep that in mind, but right now, this celebration was her priority. For the rest of the night, Maybe It's Menagerie and the Miraday Circle celebrated through dancing, minor mischief, and drink. When it finally came to rest though, most of the Menagerie were offered rooms in the Miraday Circle. Leste, however, had different plans. Later in the night, after haggling a merchant for a very nice bottle, she started looking for the bulwark. Once she spotted him, she came up from behind him, entwining her tail with his while holding the bottle to her chest. When the bulwark turned to face her, she admitted she had forgotten to get a room and was curious if she could share his. Leste failed to notice the bulwark was in the middle of a conversation with his dragonborn companions, and this firmly derailed anything they were talking about. Dadalin had an encouraging outburst of laughter at Leste's approach, causing Nyarik to escort her away so she did not cause any more distractions. Reading the room, Elxus followed the two, giving little reaction to anything Leste or Dadalin did. With the night drawing to a close, and the bulwark trusting in his companions to make sure everything would go smoothly, he took up Leste on her offer and escorted her to his room. The bulwark invited her in, then turned to quietly close and lock his bedroom door. When he turned to see Leste, worry was on her face, and she was holding up a finger to her lip. The bulwark invited her in, then turned to quietly close and lock his bedroom door. When he turned back to see her, worry was on her face, and she was holding up a finger to her lip. Without a word, she opened Cowan's bag and entered it herself, with the bulwark following. The two sat in the center of the bag, surrounded by Cowan's modest hoard, where Leste asked if the bulwark was certain this room was safe, and that no one would hear this conversation. When he confirmed, she prefaced what he was about to hear was something divined by an eye of a lily, and she proposed her brood tell no one this as she trusted no one with this information. She did, however, trust two: the bulwark before her and Branka. Even with this trust, there was anxiety in her words as she revealed that a lily conveyed a war was coming, where banners of all nations will be flown in this prophesied conflict. Hearing this, the bulwark sunk into himself, not surprised at the news, but not explaining why. Leste ignored this ominous tone, instead focusing on why she was telling him this. She did not expect anyone to be able to change that war was coming, but she knew work could be done to make sure that banners would be raised in unity rather than opposition in the coming war. She pleaded to the bulwark to work with Branka in doing anything they could to unite Amaranthine. Through dubious means, she already knew that Hala wanted to become allies, and she wanted to do anything to make that happen. The bulwark already knew of this as well, with Amora being the price of unity. He could not promise anything, but it was clear he did not want this war to come. Leste understood and asked if there was any way her menagerie could be used to help unite him, and then that they be contacted. She then looked the bulwark in the eyes, letting him know that if he used this information for the sole purpose of bettering Valhira and his brood, may Hewlett ignite his soul. When he agreed to such a punishment, she felt she had made the right call in telling him of this. The two had no more to discuss on the topic, so they exited Kaun's bag and spent the rest of the night together, drinking and telling stories of their time apart. After all stories had been told and all partying had ended, Sonora woke up early and made her way to the headmasters of the circle, tracking down the headmaster of holy magic and healing. His office was easy enough to find, and he welcomed her company. She then took a seat in his cramped clerical office and asked if he had any knowledge on unique ailments. When he realized the sensitive nature of the conversation, he closed his door and gave her his undivided attention as she described her symptoms. The commonplace symptoms she had narrowed nothing down, so he shifted his focus to when she obtained her ailment. When she brought up that she started exhibiting symptoms after going unconscious in an anti-magic zone, his expression grew grim. Little was known about anti-magic zones, and less was known about her affliction, but he knew it as the breath of death. He knew of ongoing research in Alta, and the cause was believed to be the spirit coming in contact with the veil, but nothing about it was known, most importantly a cure. The only way he knew to assist with the symptoms was by having healing word cast daily, and it would only slow the disease. If she wanted a cure, Kivaxa might know more, but all he could provide was a temporary relief from the symptoms. Regardless, Sonora was happy to get any help, especially his as he placed a palm on her back and had magic course through her. Regardless of how long it lasted, for the first time in a long time, it felt like she could finally breathe. Isk then advised her to avoid anti-magic zones, as while entering them should not worsen her situation, falling unconscious in one again would certainly expedite her ailment. She let him know that she was not planning on falling unconscious anytime soon, and her party had been very effective at protecting her, which the headmaster was happy to hear. Wanting to let her menagerie know of the illness, she took her leave, and after a short search, found all except Leste in the dining hall eating breakfast. She grabbed some food and sat with everyone, having a quick meal while Kaun scrutinized Joker's hair. The dragon did not like the change and wanted an explanation, which Joker said it was because of an ex. Kaun then grew angry at this person, not understanding that Joker did not hate her. The situation only grew more confusing for Joker when Perkring tried to tease him for still having a crush on her, which he was uncertain of. All while this was happening, Kaun's mind also wandered into thinking about his parents, when he realized the Bulwark should know who his dad is. Wanting to solve that mystery, he led the menagerie, exploring the halls of the circle in search of him. They filled this time talking about family, with Kaun letting on he knew more about Branka than others believed. He remembered a time before he hatched, where he heard Branka tell stories and became familiar with her presence, even though he never saw her. Eventually, Kaun picked up the scent of a dragonborn and tracked it to 4 doors. He approached the door with the strongest scent and tried opening it. It was locked, so he had Joker pick it, then, not to implicate Joker, opened it himself. Inside, Leste and the Bulwark shot up, both extremely confused about how Kaun could have opened this door. Kaun then let himself in and asked the Bulwark if he could know who his dad was. With Leste anxiously looking on, the Bulwark took a knee and asked Kaun what he knew of the broods of Valhira. The dragon spoke of Branka Dulast's brood, how they were the largest brood of Valhira, and how Leste had told him that the Bulwark is the strongest of the brood. He then started speaking on the Panoptes family, calling them warmongers, and the Bulwark swiftly interrupted. They've been preparing for war because of the events of the Draconic War, doing everything possible to prevent dragonkind from getting close to extinction again, including discouraging war. The Panoptes family were not bad people, and the Bulwark wanted to make this clear, as Kaun's father was Phylax Panoptes, a member of the family. Kaun did not know how to feel about this. He knew Leste was fearful of them and their reputation, but he trusted both of his mothers. Now more than ever, he wanted to know about his father, meet him. but here was not the place for that. With stillness in the air and the entire menagerie present, Sonora changed the topic, letting everyone know more about her illness. She omitted its name, fearing unnecessary concern, and instead focused on how it could be slowed. It still upset her how the illness was a burden, mostly to Maka and her magic, but Maka refuted this. She already agreed she was going to help with her ailment, and she was going to follow through on that promise. Then, Perkring approached the bulwark and asked if he knew where Belle was, or how Belle could travel between Rhyme and Amaranthine. He had no clue of the prior, but for the latter, he believed only the heiresses, or maybe a headmaster of teleportation or holy magic, could do something like that. Taking this as a lead, he headed out, looking for the headmaster of teleportation of the circle to get more insight with the menagerie in tow. A short walk led them to an office with the engraving Hashan Oldbrook, headmaster of teleportation, but this was a dead end. She had no clue how to track down Belle, and how travel could be done in between Rhyme and Amaranthine. The only thing she knew was any travel like this was notoriously lethal. All she could recommend was to talk to other headmasters. Perkring thanked her, nonetheless, and then trotted along with the menagerie in tow to Headmaster Isk's office next door. He happily invited everyone in, and after Perkring asked his questions, he was not able to give any answers on how to reach Belle, but he did, however, have some insights into Rhyme, the area in between, and the Divine. Argos, her children, and Isoto reside in Rhyme, but not all Divine seem to reside there. The marked deities Ganem, Wuto, and Eula, alongside any divine spirits like Culid's Ashen, reside in the in-between of Rhine and Amaranthine. The god of death also seems to have importance in this in-between, but like much of the god of death, their exact connection is unknown. With this information, he recommended Perkring research the spirits of the divine, specifically Amora if possible, to get more information on the possibility of travel to this in-between land. While Perkring got his answer, Leste moved the conversation to Kaun and his sight. After her explanation of Kaun's unique vision on divine figures, Isk extended out his palm and produced a golden glow that went through the party. After getting confirmation of Kaun's age, he deduced that Kaun likely was blessed by Storgia around the time of his birth, granting him this sight. He then turned to Nixie and informed her that she seemed to be blessed by divinity as well, which seemingly did not surprise her. Not knowing as much as she wanted to about the situation, Leste asked if Isk had any documents or writings on the Ashen so she could better know what Kaun's blessing could mean. After a short amount of rummaging, he produced a stack of documents and gifted them to her, encouraging her to learn more from others as well. She thanked him and started to walk off to find Aurelia, headmaster of wild magic. Everyone else tagged along except for Nixie, as she wanted to talk to Isk alone about private matters. After a short walk, most of the menagerie were in Aurelia's office, and she was happy to test Kaun's sight at Leste's request. She aimed her palm at a book on her desk and let her magic swell into it, transforming it into a frog. To most, it looked like a simple beam of magic, but to Kaun, he saw a sheen coat her hand, then a violet aura manifest around it. She then had Kaun describe what he saw when looking at a bag of holding. As he focused and looked closer, he noticed a faint shimmer on the threads of the bag. Aurelia explained that his vision was not exclusive to the divine, but more so that he had a better perception of all magic. With training, he potentially could be able to differentiate each of the types of magic. For now, though, he was just a kid, who alongside Perkring was playing with the frog that Aurelia made. Perkring began showing off his own magic and illusions to Aurelia, much to her enjoyment. With that, let us continue.